ladies and gentlemen, direct from a terrific run from his dressing room. Please welcome Mr. Tommy Van.
Good evening, staying within the realm of radio. And in the early days of radio, the early 30s and 40s, the United States had a lot of radio going for it, a lot of dramatic shows, and of course I think about every fourth or fifth show was a cowboy show of some kind. Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, so on and so forth. And tonight I'd like to take you back to those good old days and recreate one of those great cowboy shows. How many of you remember the Lone Ranger? Go yay! Yay! All right. I am going to recreate that original broadcast of that very first Lone Ranger show right here tonight on this stage by myself. Pshaw, you say. Well, I'm going to play the radio announcer. I'll be the Lone Ranger and Tonto. I'll be the horse's Silver and Scout. I'll be Butch Cavendish and his gang of killers. I'll be the townspeople. I'll be the burning wagon. I'll skip the burning wagon. And what I want you to do, well, let me give you a thumbnail synopsis of what started that original show. There were 6 Texas Rangers that rode out looking for Butch Cavendish and his gang of killers. Now, they were a bad bunch of guys. Now, the Lone Ranger wasn't even lone at that time. These 6 Rangers rode out, and they had with them a scout whose name was Collins. Now, he led them into this canyon where they got shot up in an ambush. They got their tuchus shot off by Butch Cavendish and his gang of killers. Now, 5 of them died, 1 of them lived. Now, this Indian fellow, whose name was, very good class, came along, buried the 5 that were dead, and nursed the other guy back to health, and gave him his name, Lone. And that's what he became known as, Lone Ranger. That's why he signed his checks, Lone Ranger. Now, what I want you to do is pretend that you're just a small child, and you're out in the backyard playing, and your mommy hollers out the back door, says, "Sweetheart, it's radio," and you came running in. And she set up your little radio tray in front of that big old radio over there, and you did, and you looked at that radio, and she went out in the kitchen, got in the ice box, because most of the time we couldn't afford refrigerators back in those days, and got out a little frozen radio dinner. Didn't have them either, did we, huh? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we take you back to yesterday. This is what you might have seen.
A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver, the Lone Ranger. This is the legend of a man who buried his identity to dedicate his life to the service of humanity and country. It is the story of the origin of the Lone Ranger. Early settlers in the West had to be brave men and women, ready to fight for their lives at any moment. There was danger on every side. There were wild beasts, savage Indians, and the Cavendish gang. Butch Cavendish headed a pack of outlaws. They struck without warning to steal and kill.
Open fire on that wagon train. Wipe them out to the last man.
The Cavendish gang attacked ranches and towns as well as wagon trains. Everyone feared Butch Cavendish. His gang grew rich and powerful. Finally, the Texas Rangers learned where Butch Cavendish and his gang were hiding. 6 Texas Rangers guided their horses along a canyon floor to arrest the Cavendish gang. Presently, Captain Reed signaled a halt.
Bring in, boys. Collins, Scout. What's the word, Collins? Good news, Captain Reed. It's all clear. I scouted the rim on both sides of the canyon and found no sign of the Cavendish outfit.
All right, boys, let's go. Get up there.
Collins, the guide, lagged behind unnoticed by the Texas Rangers, who moved in single file along the floor of the rock-strewn canyon. They didn't know that Collins had lied, that Butch Cavendish and his killers were waiting in ambush on the rim on both sides of the gap.
Here come those Rangers, boys, just as Collins...
The Rangers leaped from their saddles and spread out as they returned the fire from both sides of the canyon. Soon, 4 of the Rangers were killed. Captain Dan Reed and his brother, wounded several times, kept fighting side by side. Then the captain fell mortally wounded, and a moment later his younger brother, the last of the Rangers, slumped to the ground. The outlaws waited and watched for any sign of life from the Rangers, then rode away, convinced that all 6 men in Bryant's Gap were dead. Sunset came, then darkness. That night, an Indian examined the bodies by moonlight. After examining the first 5 men, he muttered softly, Then he came to the 6th man, the younger brother of the captain. And this man, lives. The Indian lifted this man tenderly in his strong arms and carried him to a nearby cave where he bathed and dressed the wounds. The Indian called on all his knowledge to treat the wounded man. He went day and night without rest. It was the morning of the 4th day when the ranger opened his eyes. And for the first time, the Indian saw them clear and calm.
Are you awake? Me glad.
Yes, but so weak.
You wounded, man.
I remember an ambush.
Isn't that right? Me find you in canyon. Carry you here to cave.
It's daylight.
It's morning.
Then I must have been unconscious all night.
It's several days since fight in canyon.
Several days.
Ah.
There's something familiar about you.
You remember? Many years ago, you only boy. You find Indian boy in trouble. You saved life, Indian boy.
Yes. Your name is Tonto.
That right?
Years ago, you called me Kimosabe.
That right. And you still Kimosabe. It means...
Who remembers what it means? No, it's Apache Indian for horse's butt.
There were 6 of us in that canyon. The others. What about the other rangers?
Other ranger. All dead.
Dead.
Ah.
One was my brother.
You only ranger left. You lone ranger.
The Lone Ranger. Tonto, those killers know me by sight. If they know one man escaped, they'll look for him.
And them not know one escape. Tonto bury 5 men. Make 6 graves. Crook think you die with others.
Good. Then my name shall be forever buried with my brother and my friends. From now on, my face must be concealed. A disguise, perhaps. Or a mask. That's it. A mask. I'm the only one who knows about the Cavendish government. With your help, Tonto, I'll get every one of those crooks.
In the ranger's eyes, there was a light that must have burned in the eyes of knights in armor. A light that through the ages lifted the souls of strong men who fought for justice, for God.
I'll be the Lone Ranger.